Welcome to CASE. Thank you for investing in Volume 1 of our three-part CASE series, and congratulations for investing in you. I'm Keith DeGreen, and before we begin the substance of this program, I'd like to share some preliminary but important thoughts with you. First, the extent to which you benefit from these tapes is entirely up to you. The choice is yours. You have hired your own private tutor in the form of this cassette program, but now you must put your tutor to work. Please, don't play hooky while your tapes collect dust. Use them. Indeed, use them up. It's your program, your investment, your future. Give this cassette program a chance to work for you. Second, please listen to each cassette at least twice before moving on to the next. Later, we'll discuss the importance of spaced repetition, hearing the same message over and over. But suffice it here to say, it is repetition that gives cassette training much of its value. After listening to the entire cassette program at least twice, then select those portions of it that are most meaningful to you, and play those sections at least once each day for at least 21 consecutive days. Please give the message an opportunity to sink in. Then, and only then, critically evaluate what you have heard. Accept those portions with which you agree and reject those portions with which you don't agree. I don't profess to have the final answer on anything, but, much more important, by listening repeatedly to the message, you can accumulate and organize your thoughts, and ultimately arrive at some final answers of your own. Finally, please use the workbook. It is designed to reinforce the material in the tapes and to provoke additional thought. As you listen to the tapes, answer the questions asked before looking up the answers in the back of the workbook, and, of course, perform the exercises requested. Whereas the workbooks are designed to reinforce the tapes reinforce the book, and the book reinforces our seminars. This cumulative effect is not accidental. It was planned that way. Our goal is to present material that is both meaningful and memorable. We think this is the best way to do it. Well, if your cassette player is at the ready, let us begin our journey through a new and exciting land, occupied by Gee, I'm Glad I Dids, Darn, I Wish I Hads, NIOPs, militant mediocres, wishy-washy positives, assorted other creatures, both good and evil, and even a fellow named Calvin Case. Calvin Case was on safari in Botswana. Too cheap to invest in an English-speaking guide, he decided to rely upon the directions of the villagers each day as he left the capital city of Gaborone. Calvin soon discovered that the natives in each village spoke a different language. Undaunted, he determined that he could sort out the conflicting languages and obtain the directions he desired. By the end of the first day, after stopping at several villages for help, he found himself back on the outskirts of Gaborone where he had started. Each day, Calvin would leave the capital city and head into the jungle, always in a slightly different direction. Each day, he would encounter several villages, in each of which the natives spoke a different language. And each day, by day's end, he would find himself back at the outskirts of Gaborone. Finally, after Calvin spent several days traveling in circles, an English-speaking resident of the city approached him and asked, "What have you learned thus far from your safari?" Calvin, without hesitation, responded, "I have learned that all the natives surrounding the city are lost." Those of us who have entered the How to Succeed jungle from the capital city of our ego have often repeated the sentiments expressed by Calvin. It seems there is an abundance of advice out there, advice that frequently leads us back to where we began. While wandering through the How to Succeed jungle, we, like Calvin, frequently encounter different languages. As we find ourselves back where we started, we frequently tend to blame the substance of the advice we received rather than our interpretation of it. There are at least 3 separate languages in the How to Succeed jungle, languages which on their face seem to conflict, but is it the advice that is wrong, or is it our interpretation of it? There are books on how to live alone. There are books on how to live together. There are books on happy marriages. There are books on happy divorces. There are books on how to communicate with our words. There are books on how to communicate with our bodies. There are books that tell us we can succeed by helping others, and there are books that tell us we can succeed through intimidation. Some books tell us it's how we look inside that will make us successful. And other books tell us it's how we look outside that counts. And then there are those books that no one is too sure what they're saying, including the people who wrote them. Is it any wonder that we frequently find ourselves wandering in circles through the jungle of this advice? And who are these self-appointed experts on success? Some seem barely qualified to manage their own lives, let alone the lives of others. Others seem eminently well equipped to lend advice, while others who seem academically qualified speak in tongues that no one can understand. The Dudley Do-Rights speak the language of positive. Their message is old as the Bible and as simple as the Golden Rule. For years they have propounded the simple message that if we wish to have more of the good things of life, then we must treat ourselves and others with more kindness and love than in the past. The language of positive revolves around such words and phrases as self-esteem, self-determination, respect, purposefulness, kindness, hard work, and love. Some of the books written in positive have been nothing short of masterful. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale in his Power of Positive Thinking and Dale Carnegie in his How to Win Friends and Influence People years ago established a standard of positiveness and style that others since have only been able to attempt to imitate. Still other books written in the language of positive have bordered on the absurd in their simplistic and utopian approach. Somewhere between these two extremes falls the great mass of self-help volumes. But whether simplistic or masterful, the language of positive emphasizes every man's ability to achieve what he wants if he simply helps enough others achieve what they want. The hard chargers speak the language of negative. While such books have fallen into vogue only in recent years, probably as a reaction to the more simplistic books written in the language of positive, their message is at least as old as Machiavelli. It is based upon the premise that through certain affirmative acts, we can manipulate others into thinking, feeling, and doing as we wish. Thus, we can catapult ourselves to the level of success we desire. As might be expected, the language of negative focuses less upon the rightness or wrongness of any particular approach than upon the pragmatic results thereof. Two of the more successful language of negative authors are Michael Korda, who wrote Power, How to Get It, How to Use It, and Success, How Every Man and Woman Can Achieve It, and Robert Ringer, who wrote Winning Through Intimidation and Looking Out for Number One. Others, perhaps less Machiavellian but no less pragmatic, have emphasized that success may be attained through the clothes we wear or the way we position our bodies during negotiations. The language of negative deals in such words and phrases as intimidation, power struggle, gamesmanship, one-upmanship, authority, status, and control. But whatever its combination of words, the language of negative approach remains the same: pragmatism and manipulation. The experts speak the language of academic. This language has been with us since man first felt the need to overcomplicate something. The language deals in such terms as are necessary to redefine concepts that were once already perfectly clear. Its emphasis is upon translating new ideas, and for that matter many old ideas as well, into terms that no one can understand. The language of academic presumes that if one can present his opinion with enough multisyllabic words, then he will be presumed to know what he is talking about. The words themselves act as a defensive barrier between the persons to whom they are directed and a close scrutiny of the substantive ideas they are intended to express. The language of academic is founded upon a words gamesmanship, which permits words themselves rather than the ideas that underlie them, to become the primary focus of attention. Academic is to language what rabbits are to reproduction.